Okay, I'm going to get started just briefly welcoming everyone. If this is the first meeting you're joining us for, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here tonight. We do ask that everyone keep their microphones muted if you are not presenting or asking a question. There will be at least two presentations tonight for zoning items. I'm sorry, there will be two presentations for zoning items tonight. We will first allow the individuals representing those projects to present and speak on each, and then we will open the floor for questions. At that time, we'll ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I'll call on you as I see your hands raised, and I'll also ask for anyone who may be calling in on the phone and does not have the ability to use the raise hand feature, but we will certainly get to all of your questions. Before we move into those, we're going to have our treasurer, Eric, give us information on the end of year report for 2020. So I will pull that up on the screen and I will also share it in the chat for everyone. And Eric, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Jess. So we'll start with the balance sheet. We ended the year with just shy of $7,000 in checking, savings a little over $20,000, and then our petty cash has stayed the same, about $859. So for total assets of almost $28,000. That is composed of, as you can see, through the general fund, the scholarship fund, the memorial fund, and then several different grants that we've accumulated. That we've received. So really no major movement. December was a light month, so no major changes here. Any questions on the balance sheet? Okay. We move on to the income statement. Like I said, December was a relatively light month. So we did start to see kind of a steady uptick in December, as we usually do on residential memberships. So you can see we brought in around $320 on residential memberships for a total of about $1,800 for the year in residential, which is actually this year, considering with the pandemic that we've actually flipped on the residential being the larger income stream versus the business. So we did receive a couple of business memberships at the beginning of last year, and then we ceased our memberships after business memberships after that. Nothing really under donations for December. You can see that we ended strong with around just shy of $2,000 in donations. Most of that was what came through because of the chili cook-off scholarship fundraiser. And then the rest of that was through the Kroger Rewards, Community Rewards program that we were participating in. And then under grant funding, when we did apply for some grants earlier in the year for the summer festival, those will be held until next year since we were not able to use those. And then merchandise, because in lieu of the festival this year, we did open the Summer Fun Days shop, where we sold several merchandise, and thanks to everyone who bought some, and hopefully everyone had some ornaments and gifts to give out this year with Merion Village. We still continue to see a little bit of that come in December, but we did sell around $2,700 worth of merchandise. We still have to remit the sales tax on that, so some of that we'll still have some expense there. So total income for December was around $355. For the year, just over $10,000. In the expenses for December, mostly rent and utilities were our main expense drivers. And then for the other expenses for December, we did have a little bit our normal Zoom membership or subscription that we pay for these virtual meetings came through. The other for the year largest expenses again continue to be the info center and utilities. For that, we did pay around $2,300 for the merchandise that we sold in the shop. Let's see what else technology was kind of several of our websites and the accounting software, as well as the Zoom memberships and things like that. And then we did have a little bit of grant expense for the Pocket Park, and then for the garden tour that we did produce virtually. So for the year, our expenses ended at $13.5 thousand, which brought us to a net loss for the year for $3,400 net loss for the year. Any questions on the income statement? Okay. The board's going to put together a budget in the next month, and we'll bring that for 2021. Especially now, considering the pandemic, we want to be extra fiscally responsible. So we'll bring that budget back to the association next month. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. I'm just going to briefly pull the agenda up here. So anyone who did not open the file I shared in chat, we'll have a moment to see what we've got on the list for this evening. Let's see here. Okay.
Oh, Jeff, sorry. While you're pulling that up,
Okay.
so we did have a question from Vicky on how many members have signed up so far this year. Vicky, off the top of my head, I think we've had 4 households that have come in 2021. But I could be mistaken. Jess, was it 6?
So this will include anyone who registered as a member on or after September 1st of last year. And then of course, anyone this year. So we have a total of 88 individuals. That includes seniors, individual, and household memberships. And that was as of my count about an hour ago. A couple more have come in since then. So, but we were at about 88 at that point.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just considering what had come in actually in the fiscal year since January 1st. So, okay, great. 88.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me get this agenda pulled up here. All right. Okay, so just a quick view of what we've got on the docket for this evening. Just want to take a moment at the beginning of this meeting to talk about memberships and remind everyone, if you have not renewed, you can still do that. If you were a member last year, if you'd like to vote this evening, you can just go to our website, merionvillage.org, to renew. I have that information up on my other screen here, monitoring it as it comes in, so that if any 2020 members do renew prior to our vote on the first variance item, we'll certainly be able to accept those. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Lauren Cardoni, who is our zoning chair. Lauren will be introducing the 2 zoning items that we have on the docket tonight. We have allotted 20 minutes for each of these items. So we do ask that the presenters take about 5 minutes or so presenting their proposals, and then we will open the floor for questions, concerns, and comments from everyone before we take a vote. So Lauren, go right ahead.
Hi, thanks, Jess. So it looks like first up on the agenda this evening, we have a property at 1354 South 3rd Street. And this is a fairly large lot with just a single family home on it currently. And they are proposing a lot split and some associated variance items. So I believe we have Dave Perry with us this evening to present on this application.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, Dave Perry here. I'm a consultant on the zoning aspects of this project. John Lorenz is the applicant proposing to split 1354 South 3rd, and he is on, and Carrick Sherrill is the project architect, and Carrick is on also, and we'll be talking about architecture a little later. Let me start my share screen. Am I able to do that, Lauren?
Yes, you are.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you. We all good? Everybody has aerial photography on their monitors?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Aerial photo. The site address is 1354 South 3rd, where my cursor is located. And this is a zoning variance application BZA 20-131. The property and virtually all of the surrounding area is zoned R2F residential. That zoning district permits single and 2-family dwellings. As Lauren indicated, this is an unusually large parcel, 60 by 150 or 9,000 square feet. And the property is located between Moeller, the street at the top, and Jenkins to the south. So this is just a little different aerial view from the auditor's GIS. The property, 9,000 square feet, is developed with an existing single family dwelling and detached garage. We are proposing to keep both and split the remainder of the property for the construction of two single-family dwellings. This is a street view from South Third looking at the property. This is the existing house and the existing garage in the rear, both of which would remain. And then this is an alley view. I have a couple shots of the alley behind to the east of South Third. The parcel is where my cursor is located, the vacant area. And there are dwellings on the alley directly in the vicinity. This is looking south, and then this is looking north. This dwelling abuts the property to the south on the alley. So auditors GIS, again, Moeller and Jenkins, and our site outlined in red. And this is just to give you a proximity view, kind of with the parcels that are around it. We have parcels ranging from the abutting parcel to the south is 29 by 62, 1,798 square feet. That's this parcel. We have parcels on the south side of Moeller that are 40 by 56, 2,240 square feet. We have other parcels on South Third in this area where I'm pointing that are 22.5 by 80 feet and a half, 1,811 square feet. And this is the same parcel map, but brought in a little closer. And there are some larger parcels, but they are like, for example, this parcel where my cursor is located is a two-family unit and so on. But the point of the parcels is that the current R2F district requires a 6,000 square foot lot. And there are very, very, very few parcels that comply with that. Most of the parcels on the screen are non-conforming to the current area requirements. And so the prevailing standard of area size is less than 6,000 square feet. So the variances, let's go to the site plan first. Site plan prepared by Carrick, Columbus Design Company. The dash line is the whole existing 9,000 square foot parcel. This shows the existing single family dwelling, the existing garage, and this is our this line in the middle, and this line is our proposed split lines, and that creates the existing house on a 4,790 square foot parcel, 35 feet of frontage. It creates a second parcel fronting South Third, 2,570 square feet with parking, with a driveway access from the alley and 2 parking spaces on site. The existing house would keep their existing garage and comply with the 2 spaces. And then the third parcel is the area I'm outlining at the east side of the site and would be on the alley, similar to adjacent dwellings and other dwellings on the alley. And that parcel would be 1,613 square feet with a 1-car garage access from the alley and a 1,200 to 1,500 square foot dwelling. Carrick is working on the design of the 2 new dwellings, but he's estimating 1,200 to 1,500 square feet for the new dwelling at the rear and the new fronting house on 3rd Avenue, around 3,000 square feet. So let's switch. I don't want to run too long, Lauren. Let's switch to Carrick. And Carrick, I've got your slides on the floor plans and architecture. You tell me what you'd like up, and let's run through the architecture proposal.
Sure. Let's just, we can move straight down to the elevation of the first home.
Okay.
So this is the home that would be fronting 3rd. The result of the lot split is a fairly narrow lot split. I mean, a fairly narrow parcel with the generally modern building codes and requirements for setbacks. It creates an even more narrow design requirement. So what we're trying to do here is meet the the current demands of the market for square footage, number of bedrooms in a very narrow form factor. Both of these homes are proposing to have some exterior living space, whether that's just a place for an outdoor lounge and a fire pit or something like that on what would be the roof of the second floor, adjacent to living space on that same level. Let's go to the second elevation. So this would be the alley dwelling. It's significantly smaller, a little bit more narrow, but generally it is attempting to have the same features. It's got one less bedroom, I believe, but it's trying to achieve generally the same program. I don't think I've got much else to say about the architecture then.
Okay. Very good. Then the application to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the proposed uses, the 3 single-family dwellings are all permitted uses in the R2F district. There are standards, what's called standards variances, which is what we've applied for Mr. Lorenz. And I'm going to bring those up and blow that up a little bit. So I'll try to summarize on this, Lauren, rather than talking at length on each one. But number one, two of the 3 houses will comply with parking. The alley dwelling has a variance from 2 spaces to 1. Number 2 is the current code requires a lot width of 50 feet, which virtually none of the parcels in the area comply with. And we are reducing from 50 feet to 35 feet, 25 feet, and 30 feet for areas A, B, and C respectively. Area A is the existing house, B is the lot split on South 3rd, and C is the split on the alley. Number 3 is reductions of the 6,000 square feet of lot area to the areas that I stated for areas A, B, and C. The current code requires fronting on a public street, and an alley doesn't meet that requirement, even though there are many dwellings on alleys in the historic parts of the city. So variance number 4 is to not have street frontage for the alley dwelling. Number 6 is for the existing dwelling. It is has a variance to total side yard and minimum side yard because a portion of the house is essentially at or on the north property line. And then number 7, rear yard, to reduce rear yard from 25% to 18 and 8% for areas B and C. That's the 2 new dwellings. So Lauren, that's what we have.
Perfect. Thanks for walking through that so quickly. So Jess, I guess we can just open it up for questions.
Yep, absolutely. And I see Allison Wilford. You are up first. Allison, are you still with us?
Yep, sorry, had
Okay,
to
no
unmute
problem.
myself. So as a real estate agent and as a very connected member of this community, I disagree with this being what the market wants. I could get behind splitting it in 2, but splitting it in 3, absolutely not. That looks ridiculous. Nobody wants that.
Okay. I believe, Vicky, you have a question you wanted to ask as well.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. A couple things. I noticed that there's 3 floors. It's probably not the norm in the neighborhood to have houses that have 3 floors, 3 full floors with an outdoor patio up on the top that can overlook privacy of all the other neighbors around the area. How many houses, what's the height of that house? And what % of houses are taller than what those houses are going to be, those new houses that you're building. That's one question. In the number 3, they mentioned that they went from 6,000 square feet lots to lots that total more than 3,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet. I don't even know how that's possible. You have a 4790, a 2570, and a 1613, which is more than the total 6,000 square feet that you had to begin with. I don't understand how that lot size can increase just because you split your lots. And what type of building are they're going to be building these out of? What's the difference between the houses on either side? How much space is going to be between the houses on each side? And how's that going to impact making it more of a fire hazard? You know, how much, what do you have, 2 feet, 3 feet, you know, between houses? You know, a lot of the German village houses might be close together, but they're brick. So it's not as much of a fire hazard. On the variance by the board, some of the things they talked about that were important was whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without a variance. But there's a beneficial use of the property when they purchased it in July. And I'm sure they were well aware it wasn't split into 3 lots at the time they purchased the lot. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to the owner or be a financial impact to the owner. That it can be a beneficial use. It has to be beneficial to the neighbors too. And having 3 floors that are overwhelming that neighborhood seems like it's pretty much of an invasion on the neighbor's property. I know that a lot of people that are doing the voting on the Southside Area Commission believe that precedence is set every time precedence is set, and the city can't turn these things down, but at some point, if they can turn it down in our area of town, in inner city, they can turn it down in the suburbs also. They shouldn't have any more rights than we have as citizens. So that's all I have to say. If somebody could answer the questions I addressed earlier. Thank you.
Dave, you're muted.
Yep, sorry. Do you want a response to those items now or after the speakers are done?
No, if you'd like to respond now, that way, if anyone has the same questions, we'll go ahead and get through this portion first.
Okay. To the speaker, there is no increase in lot size. You were stating the sum of the lot sizes adds up to more than 6,000 square feet. The parcel is 9,000 square feet and is being split 3 ways. So there is no increase in lot size. The side yards are 3 feet, which are very typical of the area and the entire Midtown neighborhoods. There's no increase in fire hazard with a side yard of 3 feet, and Carrick has certain design standards that he's required to meet as an architect. I'm going to jump to Carrick on the height, and I'll flip back to one of the renderings. Okay.
Sure. The height of the building, you know, measured per zoning is 31 feet, probably about 32 to the very tippy top of the peak of the roof. I don't believe that this is going to be extravagantly more than the peak of any other home, or a good percentage of homes in the neighborhood. I couldn't tell you exactly the number of homes that have an attic type 3rd floor, but just looking at Google Earth, there are a number of fairly wide homes that would certainly have attic 3rd floors. So in terms of the scale of the building, I don't believe that this would be incredibly out of character.
What about the outdoor 3rd floor? That isn't the normal in the neighborhood, that people could have a party up there if they wanted to.
I don't know.
This is John, the developer. Can I jump in here?
Go right ahead,
Sure, go
John.
Hi,
ahead, John.
guys. This is John Lorenz, the developer. I mean, when you look at a third floor at this price point, I mean, this isn't going to be people having raging parties, right? This is going to be people having neighbors over for drinks. I mean, it's additional area for outdoor space. I don't think the intent here is to create a third floor space that invades people's privacy or does anything else but create value for the neighborhood in general. So, I mean, from that perspective, I don't think that this should be viewed in that nature.
Well,
And
I've
I
lived
think
in
I
my-
think the nature of Vicky's comment was it's out of character for the neighborhood, not that you know, what the size of the party would be.
Exactly. I've lived in my house in the neighborhood for 34 years. And yes, there are at different times when there have been problems in the neighborhood, but it's not the norm. But it is not the norm to have a third floor patio outside in this neighborhood.
Vicky, were all of your other questions answered?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
The only thing it says to reduce lot area from 6,000 square feet to 4,790. So he's saying it's not 6,000 square feet, it's 9,000 square feet.
No, the code is 6,000 square feet. This parcel is 50% larger than even the code requires.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have about 6 other folks in line for questions. So I'm going to be calling everyone. Just ask that everyone, if possible, keep things as concise, just so we can make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. So we're going to go to Tom Less, and then Tony Rell will be immediately after Tom.
I just had a quick question on the site plan. You've got a parking area in between, I believe, B and C, that looks like it would be available for parking. So did you account for that in your, or is it just an area C that you're doing the parking variance? Because it looks like you've got enough to hit your 2.
Well, this, where my cursor's pointing, the hatched area in the driveway is a pervious surface that Carrick has designed. It will not be pavement to reduce. It's an effort to reduce some of the water, stormwater runoff. So that hatching is not cars. That's the driveway from the alley to the rear parking area of the new house on South 3rd. And then
So you're just asking for the variance for area C then?
Yeah, the parking variance is only for area C to reduce from 2 to 1, and that garage accesses the alley directly.
Okay, thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what had been stated earlier by Vicky, the last project to my recollection that came through that kind of had that upper roof terrace ultimately ended up dropping that to help garner approval. And I do feel like, you know, I'm generally pro density, but I do worry that density at the sacrifice of the neighbors that are adjacent isn't necessarily something that I'm supportive of. So that upper roof terrace is the thing that makes me the most concerned. And you know, the things that I see that are leading to that are kind of the reduced setbacks, and especially the rear yard setback, where essentially you don't have a functional rear yard, so you're moving that up above to increase the density. So that's the concern that I have.
Thank you, Tony. Chris, I'm sorry if I say your last name, Chris, Schweigart?
Yes, you said it right.
Wonderful. Go right ahead.
And I agree with the previous questions too. We live at 79 East Moeller Street, which is the house on the corner of 3rd and Moeller, which this property is south of our backyard. So I am too concerned about the aesthetics of the neighborhood with these buildings, as well as the parking. Even though there's parking available for 1 or 2 spots or a garage, right now we have folks that have a house on the alley, but have to park on 3rd Avenue. And so the 3rd Avenue is already congested for parking. So this with 3 dwellings will increase the parking, and I think will really decrease the aesthetic of the street and the neighborhood as well. One more question is, what is the proposal for the alley between our house and the existing property? Because that right now that is a decommissioned alley, and it needs to stay that way.
There's no proposal for that. It's not on this property.
Okay, so, because it would be awful to see traffic flowing through there, because prior to the project of the previous owners of this property, there were signs that prohibited traffic flowing back and forth from the alley to Third Avenue.
Yeah, it's not, I'm flipping back to the GIS aerial. It's not part of this property. I mean,
Okay, good, 'cause that should be city property and decommissioned.
yeah, well, it is shown as still a 10-foot right of way owned by the city. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's not within the control of this application to do anything about that.
Right, because I'm concerned right now, we know there's construction going on, but there's quite a few people have blocked our driveway with the construction happening. And I'm concerned about, is that going to continue with, we do two or one more dwellings either way. It is concerned that what's going to be come up if we have 3 dwellings. Like I said, I can understand and appreciate a second dwelling on the lot, but 2 dwellings, I think, is pushing the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Thank you all.
Now, sir,
Chris.
may I ask the speaker a question? You said you
Of
live
course.
at 79 East Moeller. Is that this corner? Nope, did he hang up? He must have hung up.
No, he's, Chris, you're
I'm
muted.
sorry.
There you go.
That is us right there where you have the cursor.
Okay, did I hear you correctly that you have alley access, but you park on Third, or somebody
No,
else does?
I'm saying that with the folks, there's people who live, there's a building right here, and they have alley access to park, but right now, the folks that have access to these houses here are parking over here on Third Street, because there's not enough parking. So if you put another third dwelling here, there's not going to be parking. There may be parking for just people who live in those dwellings, but when they have guests, they're going to be parking over here on Third Street, which would make the congestion even more.
Well, yeah. There's just scan around the slide that's on the screen. I see lots of houses that have no parking. And Carrick has designed this to have 5 of 6 required parking spaces. So it's if there's a parking problem, it's happening now, not because of these 2 proposed houses.
It could be happening now, but now you're increasing it happening even more often with more properties. So I think we have to take that into consideration.
But these are providing the parking. What, while I
Well,
see
for-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 houses that have no parking.
But of those 20, you already have they're already on Moeller Street, and Moeller Street, you walk down there, that's already congested. I'm talking about Third Street here, that people who live in these dwellings here are parking over here because there's no alley access parking.
Yeah, I can see houses fronting Moeller that don't, I mean, the houses essentially cover most of the lot and they don't have any parking. Sure. Not unusual for the older neighborhoods.
Thanks to you both. Okay, we're going to have Lauren Larrick and then Terry Porter, please.
Yeah, so I know we've touched on the aesthetics a little bit, but I just wanted to directly ask what you have done, whether it's with materials or architecture, to try to make these new structures in keeping with other houses on the street or in the neighborhood.
Jess, can I interrupt really quickly? Sorry. I just wanted to clarify, this is a zoning review and Merion Village does not have any say in aesthetics of any development that comes into the neighborhood. It sounds like a lot of people are kind of focused on that. And I just wanted to point out that that's not what we're voting on.
This is Lauren Larrick. I understand that, but I still feel like this is an informational meeting where we are allowed to gather information about what's going to be in our neighborhood.
Carrick, what are the materials you're using?
I just
Sure.
about aesthetics and what you have done, yeah, with materials or other things to try to at least keep in mind that it's in keeping with the rest of the street and neighborhood.
Sure. Most of this neighborhood is, there are some masonry buildings, but a lot of the buildings in this neighborhood are siding. So we're proposing for this project, fiber cement siding, which is, very familiar in the neighborhood. We're We've got some metal accent railings, not uncommon to be seen in this neighborhood. So the materials we're using are certainly not out of character for the neighborhood. Certainly the design is a little bit unique, but I don't think that creates any detriment to this neighborhood. There's certainly a number of unique styles of architecture in this building, including the home right at the corner of 3rd and Moeller. There's four the 4 2-unit buildings right there on Moeller, a quarter a block away. They all have second floor terraces that face out onto Moeller. Those homes are set very high out of the ground, partly because of the topography, but in all reality, those balconies or terraces that are facing out onto the street are a couple of feet lower than what we're proposing here. So to say that an outdoor terrace in this neighborhood is entirely out of character, I think is a little bit of a stretch, because a quarter of a block away we're seeing a very similar programmatic element. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I did not say anything about it being out of character. I just wanted to know if you had taken that into consideration in the plans.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the question, and yes, we haven't, and we understand that this is unique to the neighborhood. But I believe in Columbus as it's growing, the uniqueness, as long as it's in the same scale as the neighborhood, is an appropriate way to approach these infill lots.
Thanks, Garrick. Terry Porter.
Hi, I could have missed this. The owner of the property would like to split this property into 3, and the one being the existing house and garage. And are they going to stay as owner occupied there? Do you know? And are the other 2 properties going to be for sale, for rent, for long-term or short-term rentals? Do you know how those 2 new properties are going to be used?
Yes, this is
John,
John
you wanna
Lorenz.
address that?
My understanding, I can't say this for certain, but the current owner of the lot is intending to sell the current home on the parcel, and us as developers, we're planning on building these for sale.
To be, you don't know then if they're going to be owner occupied or for rental?
I would certainly expect these to be owner occupied. I mean, the materials that we're using and the quality of build that we're going to produce in this area, I would imagine, it would be very unlikely for someone to purchase these to be rentals, put it that way.
Yeah, it does look nice, especially the outside fiber cement boards.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's like basically at a high level what I was trying to address when I was discussing, the 3rd floor terrace and things like that. Is I live in this area, I live in the South Side, and I mean, there frankly is very much a lack of new build construction that is at a somewhat affordable price point. So I think that's really why we are proposing to split this lot and create 2 new homes, because by doing that, we're able to provide homes that are at more of an affordable price, because we're taking one parcel one parcel creating 3. So, I mean, I think at a high level, we look at it from a perspective that we are providing new build construction in an area that right now is lacking it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Aaron Sink.
A question about height came up, so I just wanted to make sure I had it correctly. You said even though it's a 3-story, it comes in at a little over 30 feet, and so well within the 35-foot code requirement.
It is within the 35-foot code requirement.
Thank you very much. Tom Less. Tom, did you still have an item? Okay, we may have
About
lost.
that. I was muted there.
Go ahead.
Just a quick note for zoning clarification. When we're doing applications like this, anyone who owns a house can rent that house at any time. That's not something that anyone has any control over, right? Because if you own the house, you can do whatever you want with it. So it really has no bearing on zoning matters, whether it's a rental or a owner-occupied property.
I understand that. I just wanted to know if somebody had ideas for how they might be used, but you're saying they're going to be sold. They're going to be sold individually as individual lots. B and C are going to be individual lots that are going to be sold. Okay,
that's correct.
That's all
I definitely appreciate that comment as well. But all I was trying to say is that we're building these with finishes in mind that are going to attract owner occupants. That's all I'm saying. But I do agree with your point 100%.
And John will be the builder. Also, he's not selling lots. He's controlling the construction.
Correct.
Thank you. Allison Wilford.
Hi, it's actually Rada who's with
Hey,
Allison
Rada.
right now. I appreciate the intention of newer construction that's more affordable, as you stated. Could you please help me understand what the price point you're looking at for these buildings then? If you're saying they're affordable?
Well, I mean, of course, affordable is relative, right? But when you
Right,
look
that's
at,
why I would like to clarify, because that was a pretty big statement to make. So I'm just trying to understand what you meant by that.
well, as someone who lives downtown and seeing new construction in Italian Village and some of these areas that are pushing 750, prices like that. In my mind, a rear home on the alley that's 300 to 400,000 and a front home that's 450, call it 500. I mean, that in my mind for new construction downtown at this point is somewhat affordable.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any additional hands raised, but before we move into voting, I just want to be certain. Any other questions or comments before we move on to the voting portion? Okay, if Dave, you wouldn't mind bringing back up that list.
I don't know.
And
there you
then
go.
Lauren, would you like us to do what we typically do here, where we will ask for your votes as, where you can vote on all of these items as a group, or if you prefer, you can vote on items more specifically if there are certain areas where you agree and certain you disagree.
Yeah, I think it goes more quickly and easily if it's just yes to everything or no to specific items listed on the screen.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to use the list of attendees to compare with what I have here for membership. Once I get through the full list, I'll double check to see if there's anyone else I may have missed where you think that you should be voting. And if for those of you who may have 2 members attending this evening, of course, when I get to you, if you have another member with you, just let me know that as well, please. All right, let's see here. Vicki Retterer. Vicki, are you with us? Okay, we'll come back to Vicki.
She's having trouble unmuting, it looks like. She just commented that in the chat.
Okay,
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
'Cause
can.
I've unmuted several times and I didn't get called again, so.
Oh,
I'm here and Kent's here and I'm voting no. Kent, how are you voting?
I'm voting no on all.
Okay.
And my other comment is after they responded that there were balconies in the area, what is the square footage of the balcony versus the square footage of these balconies that terraces that you're putting up there. I don't think it's like to like, and you were referring to it, so I'm asking the question: what's the difference between the square footage size on that? I'm voting no.
Okay, I'll take your votes, and Dave, if you just want to take a brief moment and respond to that. Dave, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to ask Carrick or John on the balcony square footages.
Sure. I mean, we haven't measured those balconies, but just by looking at them, they certainly look like they're 6 by 16. So, you know, the square footage of those is in the, 100 square foot range. And, I would certainly agree with you that the terrace that we're proposing is larger, but it's certainly not a party rooftop that you would find, in a downtown area that's encompassing, a whole roof. This is, something that you'll be able to put a love seat on with a coffee table, an outdoor, lounge, that you'll be able to have a couple folks over. I just can't imagine this being something that is going to cause concern for the neighborhood in terms of the number of people on that space versus these other balconies.
Well, it's not always the number of people, but it's the time of day or the time of night. There's lots of things that can occur, and just a large party space. It's just a concern. It's not like a balcony. So, thank you.
Okay, before we continue the voting, I do see Tom Less's hand raised. So just want to, Tom, did you have an item?
Yeah, sorry. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm area commissioner. So this is going to the area commission once you vote. Just had a quick request. If you want to vote no on everything, feel free to do so. If there is specific things though that you take issue with, please vote no on those. And if you don't take issue with something, encourage you to vote yes on that, because it allows us, as we go into the area commission and as this goes forward, to really narrow in on what neighbors are taking issue with. So if your issue is really with the parking, absolutely then vote no on the parking. But if you don't have an issue with like the lot split, that allows us to narrow in on what the actual problems are, or not necessarily problems, but issues that people are concerned about. So straight votes, yes and no, become much less useful as we move on to the next step in the process. So that's just a request. Again, if you feel strongly, please vote that way as well. But if you do have certain things, the split vote really does help.
Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, we're going to continue with the voting process here. Allison and Rada.
Go ahead. I vote no to everything except number 2.
Okay, so a yes
the
on
width
number
of
2.
the lot, because as you know, a lot of the widths of our lots are 29 and 30. So I will vote yes to number 2 and no to everything else.
Thank you very much. And Rada.
My no, and I'm not stating this properly, is the 3-way split. I think 2 properties would be great, but not reducing this to 3 properties, standalone properties. However, I think you guys make sense of that, right?
Okay, let me just verify. Which number are you voting no on, Rada?
Oh, so what number does this affect? The fact that they are splitting this into 3 lots versus 3 lots.
Here. Dave, would you clarify which number is the 3 lot split, please?
Be number 3.
Number 3.
The 3
okay.
lot sizes, yes.
Yeah, so that's my no to that only.
And your yes to all other items, Rada?
Yeah, I'm fine with the others.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to capture that information here quickly. Okay, moving on. Let's see who I have next in line. Carlin Guthrie.
Hey, Carlin here. Aaron is also here with me.
Okay, perfect. And I'm sorry, what's Aaron's last name?
Guthrie.
Guthrie as well. Okay, just double checking there.
Yep, no worries.
All right.
So Carlin here, I vote yes to everything except number 3. I just feel like the density of 3 houses in that site is a little bit too dense, and I think a yard behind would be more conducive to a an actual long-term owner.
Okay.
Right.
And I vote the same way. So yes to all, no to 3.
Okay, yes to all and no to number 3. Thank you. Sorry, everyone, just want to take a moment to make sure I accurately capture everyone's votes. All right, moving on. Let's see who we have next. Chris Schweigart.
This is Chris, and I have also had Seth Jones with me. We agree with the previous 2 voters that we, yes to all, except for number 3. We agree that it should be a two dwelling property, not 3.
Okay, and I'm sorry, you said Seth Jones?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me just capture that information as well. Thanks for bearing with me, everyone. Okay, moving on here. Let's see. Eric and Mark.
I'm going to do no for all but number 2. So same as Allison. We do have very skinny lots here. So.
Okay, so no on everything except item 2. And is Mark with you?
Yep. Yeah, and I'm going to do the same.
Okay. All right, thanks to you both. Let's see here. Aaron Sink.
I'm gonna vote yes to all but 3.
Okay. Got yes, except for item 3, which is a no. All right. James Craig.
Yes to all but 3.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Jeff Suchi. Jeff, are you still with us? Okay, I see Jeff is here, but I will just click, we'll come back to Jeff. Jen O'Connor and is Matt with you, or are you guys here separately?
Yeah, we're both here.
Okay.
I'm saying no to all.
No to all, Jen?
Yep.
Okay, and Matt?
I will vote no to all except number 2, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Jessica Toller?
Yes.
Yes to all items, Jessica?
Oh, sorry. Let's see. And John's with me too. So I think I want to vote no to 3 because I don't want it split up into 3. And is there any one of these that address the height? Because I don't think the one should be 3 levels either.
Dave, I'll let you clarify, but my understanding is that there is no variance required for the height. Is that correct?
That is correct. No height variance.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Jessica, you said who was with you?
John Toller.
John Toller. Okay, let me get down to your name here, John. All right, go right ahead, John.
Same for me. Yes for all but number 3.
Okay, yes for everything except 3. All right. Okay, everyone, we're making our way through. Let's see here. Lauren Cardoni, and is Chris with you?
Yes, he is.
Okay, go right ahead.
Yep, I'm voting yes to all.
Okay.
I
And
think
Lauren?
I'm a yes to all as well. I think the 3-way lot split fits in with the context of the area.
Okay, all right, so let me just grab that for both of you here. We've got a yes to all. Okay. Moving on, Lauren Larrick, and is Mike with you?
Yes, he's here, and I will vote yes to all but 3.
Okay.
And this is Mike. I'll be voting the same.
Okay, thank you both. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Looks like Matt Teagarden is next.
Yep, I'll vote yes to all but 3.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And I think I missed a name here, Lena Grajewski?
Hi, yes, I'm voting yes, except for 1 and 3.
Okay, so we have a no on number 1 and on number 3. Thank you very much, Lena. All right, let's see here. Megan Craig.
I'm voting yes to all but 3.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terry Porter.
Hi, I too, okay with, splitting the property into, one. I don't want the third one, the alley one, which is, so I guess that's a yes, except for number 3. However, number 1, number 4, and part of number 7 are related to that third area C. So those would technically be no.
Okay, so could you just clarify for me which each number and your vote on each one? I just want to make sure I get this correct.
Yes, except for number 3. But if I don't want area C, so area C, the small one on the alley, that means no to number 1, no to number 4, and partial no to number 7, because those
So you
both
can't vote
those
partially
three
no.
pertain to area C.
Yeah, so we can only have a yes, no, or an abstention, Terry.
Well, I'm not sure how to vote for number 7 because that's
Jessica, it's fine. I'll relay to the area commission what specifically.
basically I just don't want the third lot, the small one on the alley.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Thanks for that,
Thanks.
Lauren.
Yeah,
Okay.
to be clear, if number 3 doesn't pass, then a lot of these become a little bit, moot points.
Okay.
So.
Correct.
Thanks to you
Okay,
both. Okay, Tom Less, go ahead and vote.
Yes to all but 3.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Vicky with you?
She is not.
Okay. Tony, and is Sarah with you?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so you go ahead first, Tony.
I'm going to say yes to all but 7.
Okay.
Because I'm okay with the density of the third lot, but not the upper roof terraces, which I feel like is a result of the reduced rear yard.
Okay, thank you. And Sarah?
Same for me. So yes, but no for 7.
Okay, got it. Thanks to you both. All right. Okay, I believe I've captured everyone in the list. Is there anyone present tonight that believes that they should be voting? And I'll double check your name.
Yes, this is Kathy Hoyt.
Hi, Kathy. Did you renew for 2020?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me double check that really quick. Give me one moment here. Perfect. I have you, Kathy. Go right ahead.
Okay, I vote yes on everything except number 1 and number 3.
Number 1 and number 3?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Yes.
This is Christian and Tom. Are we still registered for?
You guys have not yet renewed for 2021, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Jess, I think Jeff is still trying to unmute himself, but I can't tell from the chat.
Let's see here. Okay. Hi, Jeff. We can't hear you. Let me go up to your name and just see if there's anything that gives me the ability to help with that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go with kind of what I've overheard. I'm sorry I joined a little late, but it sounds like 1, 2, and 3 are kind of hot buttons. So I'm gonna say no on those, please.
Okay. And do you want to vote yes or abstain on the other 4 items?
I'm gonna abstain just because I didn't join early enough to kind of hear all of it, and I know the next issue is important to me, so I don't want to vote one way or the other on something that affects somebody else's immediate area.
I do understand. Thank you so much.
Jess,
Okay.
this is Devin Jacobs. I believe I registered in November at the end of November.
I do
think
have
I'm
you here,
still-
Devin.
Okay.
You go right ahead.
I will echo the vote for no for 3, but yes to the rest.
Okay, so yes for all items except a no for number 3.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Brandy Shingary Morris. I believe my husband Jared Morris actually may have registered our household, so you may have him under that.
Yes, I do have your name here as well, Brandy. Go right ahead.
Perfect. Jared's here with me as well.
Okay.
So I am voting no on everything except number 2.
Okay, so a yes on number 2 and no on all other items. Thank you so much. And Jared?
I am voting yes on all and no on number 3 and number 7.
Okay, a no on number 3 and number 7 and yes to all other. Great, thank you so much. All right, anyone else? Okay, great. I think we've got it all taken care of, and I will look here at my calculator at the bottom. So I'm just going to read these off quickly. So for item 1, 20 yes, 12 no. Item 2, 28 yes, 4 no. Item 3, 4 yes, 28 no. Item 4, 22 yes, 9 no, 1 abstention. Item 5, 23 yes. Let's see here. Double check. This one wasn't calculating for me. Apologize, everyone. 8 no and 1 abstention. We have item 6 is 23 yes, 8 no, and 1 abstention. And then we have item 7, which is 19 yes, 12 no, and 1 abstention. So I will pass all of that information on to Lauren, who will of course share it with the area commission, and that will finalize that matter.
I'd like to thank the host. You did an amazing job of keeping track of all that.
Well, thank you very much. Excel is very helpful. That's all I'll say.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for joining us
Thank
and
you,
presenting
guys.
tonight.
Bye.
Okay, Lauren, I will hand it over to you to introduce our second zoning item.
So number 2 is our second time hearing a presentation on the property at 359 East Markison. So Markison and Welch, I believe, is the cross street. So we should have David and John. Sorry, that was Markison and Washington. David and John, I believe, are on with us to present this evening.
Hello, Dave Hodges here.
Who was that?
You guys
Sorry?
able to hear me okay?
Oh, yep, you're there. Go ahead, David.
Can David hear you?
David, I'm not sure if you're having some connection trouble. We just lost your video and oh, I think you're coming in on another one. Can you hear us, David?
I'm gonna try to close out of my computer. I can hear you guys. Let me, I'm gonna try to.
While he's figuring out his technology, I did want to mention, so they are coming back to us after they spoke with us at our December meeting. We gave them some feedback, and I believe they heard feedback from city staff as well. So they have revised their application and are presenting those revisions to us tonight.
Okay, great. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
All right, I'm having terrible connection issues at my house tonight, so I had to shut my computer off and jump on by phone. John, if you're here, are you able to do a screen share, or maybe Lauren or the folks that we emailed the information to?
Lauren, did you get our last submittal today? If not, I can share my screen.
If you're able to share, you can go ahead.
Okay, let me try to do that. Where am I here? Hold on. There we go. David, I'm going to show you, I'm going to share the sort of, well, I'm going to share the revised site plan, existing and proposed, and then I can go back to the previous submittal for the other images. This is the current existing site plan and new, if y'all can see it. You want me to talk about this, David?
No, that's okay. So appreciate the opportunity to be back before the before the group tonight. Had a long dialogue with you a month or so ago. Went back in, had some meetings with our client, additional meetings with the city, attempted to refine the plan a little bit. You'll notice that it is not radically or significantly different than what you saw a month or so ago. John, flip over to the elevations if you can, just so folks get a sense of exactly what this is. I think that reads the best. So there you can see precisely what it is that we are trying to accomplish here. These are essentially townhouse units. We think that this is consistent and compatible with the existing urban fabric of the Merion Village neighborhood. Certainly we've heard discussions even with the earlier case about height. I think here we're at about 22 feet. And I assume, John, that's to the midpoint, not up to the peak. So we are really, two-story, consistent and compatible, again, with the existing built environment here in the immediate neighborhood. Had conversations with the city about preservation of the church building. I think we had this before you last time. We are going to preserve the bell tower there that you see at the lower left-hand side of the screen. The density here is appropriate and consistent with densities all over the neighborhood. Quality building materials, John, maybe you can kind of touch on that later. I think I will quickly go through the list of variances and then maybe kick it over to John to talk a little bit about design. We do have a reduction in parking overall. That's a reduction from a requirement of 26 down to 18. So providing at least one per unit on site. We have vision clearance, and that's at the alley intersection with Washington, because we're up on a corner here. We have vision clearance at both intersections, both at Marcusson and Washington, also Welch and Washington. The code says that you have to draw kind of a 30-foot triangle there for vision clearance. We've requested a variance to that because that's really a suburban standard and shouldn't even be in the code in an urban neighborhood like this, but it is a technical variance that we have to request. We have building lines reducing the building setback.
Well,
Case 0 at the other.
David, I'm afraid we're losing you pretty badly.
back up a little bit, David.
Okay. What about now?
That's better.
Better?
Better.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
About a minute ago.
Did you hear building setback?
Repeat that one. Go from there.
Okay. The building setback, the city code says you have to be 25 feet off of the right-of-way line. Of course, that's a suburban standard. Doesn't apply in an urban neighborhood, so we've asked to reduce that down to 2 and to 0. We have perimeter yard. The city code says you have to draw a 25-foot buffer around the perimeter of the site, which is nonsense in an urban neighborhood. That's a suburban standard. So we've asked to reduce that down to 0 to meet the neighborhood. And on the portion of the property that's currently the parking lot, because we're going to develop there, we have lot coverage from that's allowed under the code up to covering 62%. The other thing that was discussed in some detail a month or so ago was form of these units. and whether these were going to be strictly for rent or for sale. These are going to be for sale units. I know that, in some ways that's irrelevant under the zoning, but that question came up. Some folks expressed a preference for sale as opposed to strictly rental. And again, these are for sale. So that's a quick rundown of what the variance requests are. We think it's a good project. The church is sitting there, it's vacant. If another church wanted to be there, they'd be there. That has not happened. Our client who's with us tonight was able to come in and purchase the property. Again, the city is supportive of this density. These are all appropriate variance requests. The zoning district is something that the city wants us to do as opposed to strictly council variances. So we're asking that this go into an apartment residential district. That's the gist of it. I think you said earlier on that we have about 5 minutes. So John, why don't you talk a little bit about your design intent here and some of the aesthetics.
Yeah, let me wrap up just a few points if I could. So if you could still see my screen, we've made some, I'll say last minute adjustments based on some site survey information that we got only today. So what that has allowed us to do is provide per the city's request and also the neighbor, if he's on or not, I don't know. We have a neighbor to the west on the north half of the site, which is the left. And there was a request from him, from that landowner and the city for some degree of buffer, landscape buffer on the west edge of the site. Previously, we had, if I can show you that, we were pretty much up against, if you can see my cursor, up against the property line. We've been able to, with the new information, provide that buffer on the west. So we do have the ability to have a landscape buffer. By the way, we're about, I think it's 15, 16 feet between that west townhouse there on the lower left corner and the house next door. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of space. And, this is, David mentioned, this is a 2-story building. These are all 2-story. And so it's very much like what you see all throughout the neighborhood. So there's no real kind of disparity in terms of height here. Nothing's kind of looming over anything here. We have a good bit of distance between us and our neighbors, and they're on the west end. We're happy to put a landscape buffer in there as well. As David mentioned, we're retaining the church tower. I mean, happy to talk about the church structure and its, I would say, lack of viability for a reuse, as David mentioned. If there was, it probably would be. I've walked through the church, and by the way, there was some also request last time for a kind of a walkthrough of the church, and we're happy to do that if people want to take a look at it before this project gets started. I have it, and it's not in great shape at all. And in fact, there was a windstorm apparently not too long ago that blew the roof off of the south or the west portion of the building. It's been repaired, but it's definitely not in great shape. And although you have seen maybe churches renovated into houses or whatever, this is not a good candidate for that. It's not very easily divisible into kind of smaller units at all, I can tell you that. So we're confident that this is a better use, but we're very happy that we can make room for retaining that tower. It's a beautiful building, it's a beautiful tower, and we're glad that that can still be a part of the neighborhood to sort of remind us what was here and of the history. In terms of the architecture, I'll go back to this slide. So as David was mentioning, this is very much contextual. It kind of looks a lot like what you see in the neighborhood. Gable roofs, simple structures. There's some variation in terms of the location and plan, but also in section. Some are taller than others, just to give it some variety. Exterior materials haven't been sort of locked down yet, but we're anticipating, similar kinds of materials you see in the neighborhood. Siding, whether it's wood siding or maybe some cementitious products or even metal. The roofs could be metal. That's sort of to be determined. But the idea here is to create some sort of uniformity so it doesn't look like kind of a Disneyland thing, but it's also has some variety to it. I think that covers most of it, but we're happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm going to open the floor for questions. If folks who would like to talk could use the hand raise, I'll make sure to call on you. But before we do that, Jonathan or Dave, I'm not sure if he's still having some technical issues. Could you summarize for us, because there are folks who were, of course, here at the meeting last month and do remember that conversation. Could you give us a brief summary of what, if anything, changed from the last presentation?
Yeah, we initially had submitted a proposal that did not keep the church, and I think before the last meeting we revised that to keep the tower. So I think people have seen that. But other than that, the primary difference is that buffer. But actually, let me just mention another. So this is the site plan before. You know, we were working off of auditors' information, which was not accurate. And we actually have more width on the site, north or east-west, than we realized. So that allowed us to not only create the buffer, but it also allowed us to relocate this unit just to the south of the tower over to Markison, because actually the tower, from what we can tell from the site survey, is actually further to the south. So basically it's the same unit count, but that unit went from next to the tower to the south to the west. I mean, to the west of the tower. So the buffer and the sort of unit locations or kind of block configuration changed a bit.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've got
I think if I could also add, can you guys hear?
We can.
Okay. You know, as we mentioned, there was some discussion last time, and we didn't have a great answer about form of ownership. So it is new information tonight that these units are going to be for sale. You know, we did have a hearty discussion last month. We thought we would go back, have some additional conversations with the city, have a meeting with our client, and see what could be done. You know, we stand by the quality of the project we brought last month. We've crossed a couple of T's and dotted a couple of I's here tonight, but you are right, Jess and others that mentioned that this is substantially similar to the project we were with last month.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, I've got about 7 hands raised, so we're going to open the floor. I'll call on each of you for questions. Please do try to keep your questions and comments condensed to 2 minutes or less. Eric will be keeping time just so we can make sure we do get through everything, since we are already about an hour and 22 minutes into the meeting. Just want to make sure everyone can be heard. So first up, we'll have Tom Less.
Hi. So I was just going back through the city comments, and it looks like you've addressed the western property line comment from the city. And then the only other one that I wasn't sure if it was addressed was item 3 in the city's letter, which is the Division of Traffic had some concerns and said they did not support the vision triangles. Have you gone back to the city or modified those vision triangles at all?
I don't know if David can hear that. I will tell you that, as David mentioned, you know, David and I both do these kinds of infill projects a lot. I can't recall one project we've done in, I don't know, 30 years where we haven't, of this type, that we haven't had an issue with the vision clearance triangle. It's just it's a vestige of as David mentioned, a suburban zoning code. Almost every one of these has that sort of issue. I think in this case, because of this isn't a 10-story building, we don't expect that to be a real issue. But again, it's just something that you almost always encounter.
Yeah, I understand that. The only reason I bring it up is that a lot of times we see those vision triangles being supported from Division of Traffic for approval of the variance, but this one they had not supported. So it's actually a little bit unusual in that Division of Traffic didn't support it, because they usually recognize that as well.
And Mr. Les, we have not had an additional discussion on that component of it with the traffic management folks. But as we get in with the survey that John mentioned, we come into the plan and draw those in here. I think that what we're going to find is that there's plenty of visibility here from edge of right of way out to Washington, and that it's going to become a non-issue. So I can't say the traffic management has blessed it, but I feel confident that, like the other projects you mentioned, they ultimately will.
Okay, thank you.
Evan Jacobs.
Yes, I'm actually the adjacent property owner that John was talking about, that is on the west side of the church part of the building. And we obviously talked last time at, ad nauseum of everyone's kind of concerns about the density here. And it looks like the density hasn't changed at all, just kind of reconfigured. And I'll just rehash that. I'm also concerned about the traffic with the density, with a very narrow alleyway, and trying to get in and out of that already is a struggle with just the church there, let alone no vision on the other side when the parking lot is no longer open. I had a couple questions. One for John. What is, I see that you added the buffer there of the side yard between my property and the townhouse. Can you tell me what the size of that is? I can't see close enough.
It's a 4-foot buffer, actually. I think the city would request something like a 3-foot, so it's a little bit wider.
Okay. My other question is, between that townhouse and my property, there's actually a beautiful, probably 60-year-old tulip poplar tree that I think really brings a lot of character to that space. Are you guys going to keep that tree?
If it's not in the way, we'll try.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's somewhere near the property line there. And then are you guys planning to do anything along the alleyway to help with sight for turning in there? I could very easily see someone pulling out of their garage at the end there and a car turning in, and there's nowhere to go basically once you're in there.
I mean, other than, I don't know, mirrors or something. I mean, these kind of urban sites, we've done a lot of these, and, people that live in these places, I mean, they understand what it's like. And I think people, they tend not to, they tend to take the amount of care that's needed to be safe about it. So our experience is that habits accommodate these sort of conditions pretty easily.
I'd say this to Mr. Jacobs. We are certainly willing to engage with you directly on that perimeter to discuss things that we can do, whether it's on our site or yours, to soften the perimeter to the extent that the tulip poplar is savable.
Okay, Tony Rell.
I guess I have a few questions. Sorry if it's too many, but what's the distance garage face to garage face in the alley there? It looks pretty tight.
It's just the width of the alley. I mean, it's greater than the width of the alley, right? So it looks to me about maybe 20 feet, something like that.
Yeah, it just seems like that might be pretty tight with a car, trying to actually back out of your garage and not obstruct the alley when you're trying to make maneuverable turns in there. Just something to consider. And I'm assuming, I'm sorry, I don't remember what's all on the list of variances here tonight, and requests, but I'm assuming the demolition of the church building is part of the request?
All but the tower, yes.
And none of that, are you saying none of that facade is savable on the street side?
On the street side, well, no, it's not really where the buildings are going. So we're intent on keeping the tower, but just the tower.
Got it. Okay, I would consider that kind of disappointing, given that that's kind of a, one of the many contributing structures to the neighborhood. So that's just a notch against supporting this one. But I guess two final questions that are related. Looking at the setbacks on Washington and on the south side, I think that's Welch. Are those setbacks consistent with with the existing development in the neighborhood, or are you closer to the right of way and sidewalk than other developments that exist?
Oh, I would say, and there's a lot of variation in the neighborhood, so I'd say it's consistent with some and not with others.
How about with those adjacent to the site?
Well, which one are you speaking of?
Well, I just mean in general, like on average, the adjacent properties are between 10 and 15 feet from the right of way, or we don't know, or they're up against the right of way.
Well, I think if you look at the context on Marcuston and Welch, you'll see that the houses are very much located in with a setback that's very similar to what we're showing.
Okay.
Brandy?
Hi, thanks. My question is in regards to parking. It looks like it's a one-car garage for every townhouse. But my biggest concern is that many townhomes or many houses have 2 cars or more if they have guests. So I'm concerned about the amount of parking availability. I live just down the street on Welch, and it's already tight sometimes to find parking. So that's definitely a major concern. The density, people use garages for storage, as Jared just kind of may have heard in the background. So, some people might not even park in their garage. So I'm worried about the number of cars that this would add on both Welch, Marcusson, and Washington. I don't even think you can park on Washington, if I remember right. Is there parking allowed on Washington at all?
Yes. Both sides.
Okay, but I'm still concerned about it. So it's a 1-car garage for each townhome, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there's no other parking on site, correct?
There's one parking space provided for each of the units on site.
Other than the garage, there's one additional?
No. There's one garage space for each unit.
Okay, that's not sufficient for this neighborhood. That's going to make it highly dense. There's not enough parking along these streets. It's already very dense with the homes that are here. I cannot see that adding 17 homes in one block is going to be allow enough parking in this area. It's going to be crazy in order to find a parking spot in front of your house. That's just insane to me. Why would you put that many dense homes with that much limited parking? Yeah, I will definitely say my vote's going to be no on this one.
Lena?
Hi, thank you. An add-on question to what Brandy was saying. I'm not sure if you guys have a plan for the layout of each individual unit, but how many estimated bedrooms would be in each unit?
Well, we haven't. Yeah, you're correct. We haven't gone that far.
Got it. Okay, I was just curious because yeah, I echo the sentiment that if there's going to be more than one bedroom, like almost every person owns one vehicle at least, and one parking spot for an entire house is just not adequate anywhere in this neighborhood. So thank you.
Erin?
My only remaining question was the southern portion on the western edge. What's the spec there?
I'm sorry, what is the what?
So I know we talked about the side yard setback from the neighbor on the north portion, the one that's on the left, but the one that here is on the right, that border that's on the bottom of the screen. What is that side yard setback there, or the amount of space between like that townhome and the adjacent building?
I would expect that to be it's probably a foot or two, similar to the house right next door.
Like it's a foot or two back, so you're looking at probably 2 to 3 feet in total between the two structures.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's 3 to 4. I'm not sure. Something like that.
Thank you.
Allison?
Hey, it's Rada. So number one, I appreciate, I think it's David that stepped up and said that he will speak with the neighbor more because I think his concerns are very valid. And I just appreciate the increased attention to his concerns. They were brought up last time, and it doesn't seem like there was that much change to what is being proposed. I echo the same thing that people have brought up again, and we talked about this last time, the density, and with that, the parking issues. We live just down the street like Bell. It's going to create a lot of problems from a parking density. I also have a question. So last time when you presented this, there was a big push, and the way it was presented was that this was going to be a great addition to the neighborhood because this was going to be a rental space, and how this would really allow additional, people to come in who maybe cannot afford a house or are not looking to buy a house and really take part in the neighborhood. So I'm just really curious why the change in that, and why now they're being sold as individual townhomes versus being a rental property that was originally proposed.
Yeah, sure. So, we I think on that subject heard folks kind of make both arguments. When we went back and had the opportunity to sit with our client and kind of discuss his long-term goals and what his thought process is for this, he heard that there was a little concern about the form of ownership and said he was willing to commit that these be for sale as opposed to for rent.
And I don't mean to speak for everyone else. I can only speak for myself, but I think that concern had to do more with the density, which again is not being addressed, not because it was necessarily rentals versus a for sale unit. We thought it was too much in a small limited space, which again, parking being an issue. And like none of that was addressed from a parking and density. So I'm just really confused by that. But thank you. I appreciate your response.
Sure. And, we talked about this last time, and we certainly hear that that folks are concerned about the density and concerned about the density. Last time, I'll make it again tonight, that the density proposed here is consistent with existing densities, all over Merion Village, Schumacher Place, German Village. We are not asking for, we're not in here looking to put 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, in my opinion. This is well done. This is sensitive architecture, and it is consistent with the density and intensity of existing urban development all over this neighborhood and adjacent neighborhoods. I know it for a fact, right? Because when I first came down, I lived in one over at the Schmidthof across Giant Eagle, and still own my unit there. I park on the street every day. They compete with people that are eating at Schmidt's when people are going to restaurants. And so in an urban neighborhood like this, it's life and it works. The streets are there to get cars and pedestrians up and down. They're also there for parking. I think on the previous case, the point was made that lots of the existing houses in the neighborhood don't have off-street parking. Here, we're providing one off-street parking for every one of the units that's being constructed.
And David, let me just add that this development, the block on this development, where this development is being proposed, when this is done, right, with these additional 17 units, will be just as dense as the block that's to the southwest of this block. So the existing block to the southwest of this block is exactly as dense as what we're proposing to add to this block.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Jeffrey.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, I definitely appreciate the redevelopment of the site. I think as last meeting, everybody applauded that. But again, I'm going to state that there's too many units. There's by far not enough parking. And the point that was just made, like, I don't want our block to be like that block with that competitive of parking. I mean, That to me is ridiculous. I don't feel like this helps our property values as homeowners in this area. And I don't really have a question. It's just more for people who don't live right in this block to hear neighbors that are in this block kind of complain about this and help shape the, I mean, I want a redevelopment of that area, but this isn't the right plan still. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Carlin?
Hey, this is Erin. I just want to confirm that this is still requesting a use change from the residential zoning use to the apartment housing use to reach this density?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's I think was a huge concern for people last time, and I know from me myself. I mean, there's no precedent in the neighborhood for this, and I think it establishes a really dangerous precedent for future development in our neighborhood just because we just don't have apartment housing density. I think everyone was pretty clear when we said 10 to 12 units, top maybe even 8 to 10 would be reasonable. I know the city's recommendation said 6 to 8 units per acre, and this is 0.6 of an acre. And so I feel like 8 to 10 would probably be generous from that point. So it's just a little disappointing to have waited a month after all of the feedback you got to see virtually like no changes made except for some of the setbacks. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, so if I might jump in and try to respond to that, similar response to the one that we gave last month. In this process, there are multiple ways to skin the cat. The city in 2021 and in 2020, they want you to conform the project to the underlying zoning classification. Now, you can look all over the neighborhood. You can see properties that are zoned R2F that do not meet the R2F standards, that do not meet the R2F side yards, building setbacks, parking, density, you name it. So we could probably, if we pushed very hard with the city, not rezone this out of the R2F district and solve the same problem and accomplish the same goal simply by doing a council variance. We talked about that last month. If that moves the needle for folks or gets folks more comfortable, we can certainly take up that conversation with the city. But we didn't do that over the course of the last month. That is correct.
Thank you. Tony?
Sorry, just point of clarification. I did pull up kind of a Google map view here of the setbacks along Welch, and these buildings are significantly closer to the sidewalk than many of the other buildings on Welch. So similarly along Washington, these buildings are kind of against the right-of-way line, which you could argue the church and a few other buildings to the south are kind of against that line, but I would argue that these buildings are closer to the property line than other buildings in the area. So if we're thinking about density and units per acre versus fitting within the urban context of the existing neighborhood, I feel like this project is kind of pushing the boundary a little more than the existing fabric. So just wanted to kind of clarify that.
I just wanted to point out that you can see on the site plan you're looking at on the bottom right corner, that's the southwest corner. You can see the house adjacent to us. So we're exactly in line with that. We're set back as far as that house exactly.
Until the other houses bump out another 10 feet.
Right. So those other three are bumped out more. That just creates a variation. They all could be bumped out that set back that much, but we're trying to create some variation. That's all.
I would say this, that if you go out and drive all over the neighborhood, you are going to see, and I'm not talking about immediate vicinity, but if you drive all over the neighborhood, Merion, Schumacher, German, et cetera, you are going to see a wide variety of setbacks off of the street. And when you're coming into a neighborhood that's an established neighborhood, you guys have not been designated historic, but you're certainly a longstanding established neighborhood, and you're doing new development or redevelopment. One of the goals, as stated by the Department of Interior, I learned that from John Barnes, is to come in and make your project distinct and different, and not try to come in and mimic or bastardize, I guess, the existing fabric. So,
setbacks all over Merion, Schumacher, German, et cetera, are widely disparate, street to street, north and south, east and west.
And these actually do, if you look at the Google map, you will see exactly that. You'll see houses that are set back as far as the ones on our project that are set back, and you'll see houses that are forward as far as the ones that are forward.
Thank you. I have a few more hands raised. Just a reminder to everyone to please be as concise as possible. I want to make sure we can get through everyone, but we are getting a little long in the tooth. Terry?
Hi, I'm sorry I missed last month's meeting, but I did have concern about the density of the proposed townhomes. But really my concern was how the garage layout is proposed. They're not really associated or attached to or nearby all the townhomes. So the reality is most people I would see are going to park near their townhome or the frontage and use their garage as storage or rent them out. And so I really think that there will be a lot more parking issues because of that. I think if the garages were more aligned with the actual townhomes, I don't think you would have that much of a problem. Then I can't see walking from those garages all the way around to the front of your, or walking down the alleyway to the back of your townhome. So I do have a concern about that. As far as like, this is the existing density of the neighborhood. It might be, but, and we chose to live in that as density, but we don't have to accept new density into the neighborhood at this level. So that's all my concern is. I think when you say, well, each townhome has a garage, I'm not sure that those owners are going to use those garages for parking their cars. That's all I have to say at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Lauren Cardoni?
Yes, so I actually agree with Terry's comment about the garages. I think switching these to sale rather than rent, it just seems odd for someone to purchase a townhome with a totally separate garage. But I did also want to say on the parking front, as a two-person household with a single vehicle, I think the parking concerns are a little overblown. I know a lot of people in the neighborhood are multi-person households with a single car or no car for that matter. So I don't think parking is as much of a concern for me. And then as far as the variance on the zoning to AR1, there is precedent in the neighborhood for that. There is a property over at Moeller and City Park that is actually a very similar style townhome development that was rezoned to AR1. So I don't think that's out of the ordinary either. That's it.
Thanks, Lauren. James Craig?
Hi, thank you. I guess we're focusing on just as a background. I live a few houses down on Markison. I use the alleyway all the time, and I did actually a good bit of driving around kind of the neighborhoods just to check out the alleyways. And I think that the way that the garages are set up is pretty much right up to the width of the alley, which is definitely different than the rest of the garages on our alley and pretty much all of the surrounding alleys that I drove down. I'm kind of curious how, I mean, I know you mentioned German Village and Schumacher Place, but that's not Merion Village. We're not living in German Village or Schumacher Place. And I think that it would absolutely substantially change the style, but also just, you're saying, people will get used to it, but people who moved here chose to move here presumably so that they didn't have to get used to that. So my main question, or I guess concern are these garages in fact all the way up to the 20-foot alley? And is there any precedent for that within this actual area in Merion Village, not like up in German Village? Thank you.
Yes, they are. And I would say the precedent is right there next door. As you can see on the site plan, the garage just to the west is right there on the alley. And I know that there are quite a few others that are really similar. So I don't think it's anything unusual for the neighborhood.
Okay, I don't see any additional hands raised, but just before we move on, does anyone have any final questions?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to
No,
speak
sorry,
to
go
that.
ahead.
It's more that there's not a direct across from that garage. There's not another garage right up to the alley. There's plenty of space. Like when I pull out of my garage, it is nearly impossible to not basically go into where my cross alley neighbor, like their space in front of the garage is always used by me to turn around, and as is the case for almost everyone that I see on that alleyway. So if you have two garages completely up to the alley, there is no additional buffer space. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, everyone. So I believe we've covered everything. We need to get to the vote because there are quite a few items to vote on this item or this matter. Jonathan, are you able to bring up a list showing each of the
I raised
items?
my hand on this damn thing. She's telling me I didn't raise my
Vicki,
hand.
we can hear you.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
you don't have your hand raised, but if you'd like to go right ahead.
Okay, how do I raise my hand?
It's part of the app, but you can go ahead.
It's not showing on here. I'm sorry. I was able to unmute, so it doesn't have a hand raise thing on here. I don't know why. Okay, I had a question. You said you did not know how many bedrooms were going to be in these units, but you have an idea on the square footage. So what's the square footage of these units?
The footprint is about 600 square feet, I believe.
Okay, so is it normal in a two-story to have a two-bedroom in a 600 square foot unit? Is that an average?
There's no average. It works lots of different ways.
Okay, all right. And have you done a parking study?
We have not done a parking study. We don't meet the threshold that would require a parking study. And, you know, we are overall 8 spaces short of the code requirement. And I believe that traffic management at the city believes that the 18 spaces provided on site, in addition to immediately available on-street parking around the perimeter of the property, are adequate to serve the site.
Okay, and so when will you know how many bedrooms the units are going to have?
Certainly further along in the design process.
Okay, so Lauren, is there anything you'd like to cover before we proceed to the vote? And then if someone can pull up a list that actually shows the items we're voting on so everyone knows how those items correspond, please.
Just the format for the vote is the same as the previous one, yes to all, or specify which items you are saying no to.
So my hands are totally tied since I'm having technical issues. But if anybody wants me to kind of take the variances item by item and let you guys vote after I, oh, there we go.
Oh my God, do I have it?
Oh, that's ish.
Old.
Yeah, that's old.
Rezoning application, would that be it or not?
No, but it was emailed in, but
John, I think it might be that SOH document you've got there.
Is it on that, David?
yeah, you can try it. But this is the current version is dated December 26th.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have that or not.
Lauren, have the variance items changed since the notice that you prepared and delivered to neighbors, or is the list in that notice still accurate?
Let me just double check the file that I have.
Is this it, David, or is this close or not?
That's the old one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's 12/26/20 revised SOH. I can share my screen.
Okay.
Sorry, Miss Cardoni.
It's okay. Share. Okay. So it looks like you've got the one set for the church parcel first.
Correct. It really makes it seem like a lot, but it's essentially a total of 6 variances because it's the same thing repeated throughout.
Lauren, can you share a copy of that in chat so that everyone can kind of have their own version? And I just want to make sure everyone is clear on how they're voting.
Yes, it should be what I sent you, Jess. So it should be on the MVA website and in the email that was sent out.
Okay, I'm sharing the version of that I have. It's just shared to chat.
Sorry, Zoom gets all funny when you're in shared screen mode.
So my count is that we have a total of, I believe, 11 items here. So we're going to go through this the same way, everyone. If you want to support or oppose all, and then if you want to support or oppose individual items, please just let me know as we get to you. All right, I'm going to go in order of those who voted previously. So if anyone new has joined, we will get you at the end. So Allison Wilford.
This is Rada. I'm voting no on all.
Okay.
I'm also voting no on all.
Okay, thank you. All right, give me one moment here, everybody. I just need to get this established.
Real quick, which parcel is which? Because we just have the parcel numbers here. Which one is the north versus south?
This is the church. This first group is the church.
Okay,
the north.
And the latter 3 is the parking lot.
All right, next up we have Brandy.
Hi, this is Brandy. I'm voting no to all.
Okay.
Jared's coming back here in a second.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Jared, and I'm voting no to all.
Okay, thanks to you both. Carlin?
This is Carlin. I'm voting no to all.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Oh,
this
Aaron's
is
here too.
Aaron, and I'm voting no to all.
Got it. Thank you both. Chris Schweigert?
This is Chris. I'm voting no to all, and Seth.
No to all as well.
Okay, I got you as well, Seth. Thank you very much. All right. Lauren and Chris.
Yep. This is Chris. I'm voting yes to all.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Lauren, I'm voting yes to all.
Okay, one moment here. All right, let's see here. Cole Moffitt? Okay, Cole will come back. Devin Jacobs.
Sorry, I'm going through them individually. I'm going to vote yes to 3321.05B2. Sorry.
No, I understand.
I think that the vision there will be fine for Markuson and that. I'm also voting yes to 3312.49 for the reduction of 1 space for parking, and then I believe no for the rest.
Okay. Let me just make those notes quickly. All right. Eric and Mark?
Which one is the classification? Is that on here or?
It's not.
Okay. I'm going to vote no for the parking and yes to the rest.
Okay, which number is that? I'm just trying to
I think
locate the
that's
screen.
4.49 for both. Yeah, 331249.
All right, so no there with the, and yes
Yeah, go
everywhere
bro,
else.
walk around that old church. See what you think about 18 units all the way up to the street and everything. What? If you're gonna go out and walk, go walk up past there.
Oh, where it is?
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second here, guys. All right.
Mark's here with me too, Jess.
Okay, give me just 1 second. I just need to make sure I get this in here accurately. Sorry, everyone. When we have this many items, it's quite a bit to keep track of, and I want to make sure everything is accurate. All right, Mark, go right ahead.
And I'm going to do no to all.
Okay. Let's see here. All right, Aaron Sink.
All right. I will vote yes to all but the 333.18.
333.18. Okay, got it. James Craig.
I'm voting no to all, despite that not really being my intention. I would certainly vote yes to many variances if simply the quantity or density were reduced and reconsidered.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Janet Knowles. Jeanette, I'm sorry. Okay. Jeffrey Suchi. Jeffrey, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, go
Can
right
you
ahead.
hear me?
We can.
I'm a no to everything here. This just doesn't fit the neighborhood, and it's a bad faith to come back with the same units and parking. I mean, no to all.
Okay, I've got you. Thanks so much. Jen O'Connor.
I'm gonna do yes to all except 3321.05B2. Sorry.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
And I have Matt
And
here.
Matt with you? Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Yes to all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you both. Let's see here. All right, Jessica Toller.
No to all. Unless there's one that would say I wouldn't mind it being redeveloped. I just agree that it shouldn't be that many units.
No specific item, just for overall redevelopment. These would all just be individual variance items. So.
Okay, so then it sounds like no overall.
Yep. And John, is John still with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Same for me. No to all.
Okay. Thanks to you both. Kathy Hoyt. Okay, looks like we might have lost Kathy, so we'll move on here. Kent Rederer.
I'm going to vote no to all, and it's the same reason. It's too many units and parking's an issue. So come back to us with something. I'd love to see it developed.
And Vicky?
Same due to density and quantity. And if they knew how many bedrooms they were going to have, it might help decide on parking. But since they don't know, makes it harder to make a decision. So I'm voting no on everything.
Okay. Lauren Larrick and Mike Pykuch.
Lauren, yes to all.
And this is Mike. Yes to all as well.
All right, thanks to you both. Lena?
I'm voting yes, except for 3312.49.
0.49. Okay, perfect. All right, let's see here. Matt Teagarden?
I'll vote yes to all except for 3312.49. I disagree with the rationale that our relationship to automobiles has changed.
Okay. All right. Yes to all. Perfect. Let's see here. Megan Craig?
I'm voting no to all.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. Nikki Smith? Okay, looks like Nikki's no longer here. Let's see, Sarah Rell? Okay.
Sorry, we're here. Sorry.
No, okay, go
Use
ahead.
your air. No to all.
Okay, no to all. All right, and Tony?
Same for me, including the demolition of the existing church.
Okay. Let's see here. Terry Porter.
No to all. I appreciate saving the bell tower. It's just too dense and the layout doesn't seem reasonable or realistic. People are going to park that far away and then walk to their townhomes.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Tom Less.
Yes to all except for 332105B1.
All right, make those notes here.
And to clarify, that's just from the city review.
Okay.
Be consistent.
All right, that is everybody I had on my list. Has anyone new joined that believes that they should be voting, or did I miss anyone? Okay, in that case, I will go ahead and read out the items. I'm just going to read them in the same order that they are on the sheet in front of you. The first item 1 is 8 yes, 23 no. Item 2, 11 yes, 20 no. Item 3, 12 yes, 19 no. 4, 12 yes, 19 no. 5, 12 yes, 19 no. 6, 13 yes, 18 no. 7, 12 yes, 19 no. 8, 12 yes, 19 no. 9, 12 yes, 19 no. I've lost count, my apologies. 10 is 11 yes, 20 no. And the 11th item is 12 yes, 19 no. Okay, again, Lauren, I'll pass those along to you to share with the area commission. And thanks for everyone for participating in that process. I know it's pretty lengthy, but I do appreciate it. And thank you to those who came to present tonight.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night. Okay, everyone, let's get back to our agenda here. Thanks for hanging in. We will try to move through the agenda quickly. This has obviously been a lengthy meeting. So we're going to go pretty quickly here. We don't have a lot as far as committee updates go, but I think Allison Wilford is here. She wanted to give a quick update on the pocket park portion, which kind of ties in with beautification. Allison?
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to give a heads up to everyone. For the last couple of years, I've been wanting to have a story time out at the park to try to get some extra involvement and get some kids involved with the park. So we will begin that in April. I'm not sure yet of the exact date on that, but we will, depending on the interest, we'll do either a weekly or bi-weekly story time, and we'll have guests in to read. I've already reached out to a couple folks that I'd like to see come out. So if you or anyone you know would like to be a guest reader, please reach out to the board and let them know, and they can pass it along to me.
Thanks, Allison. Don't have anything else on the other committees right now. Obviously, things are socially kind of on hold. Nothing for you for membership this month. And Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we have anything else to touch on for zoning tonight. So. Let's see here. The next item on the agenda is the area commission updates. Tom and Aaron, I know you're both here. Do you have any quick updates you can share with us?
Sure, I can go, I guess. So there is some changes on some of the area commission just members. I believe Bob Lighty, who I think a lot of you know, is stepping out of the PAMA role, and Kathy Green is going to take his spot. I think a lot of you know Kathy as well. It's a little change there. I think Atticus Garden was also going to step out from Southern Orchards, and in his place will be, who was it? Someone else we know pretty well. So, Kayla, yeah, Kayla Merchant. So she'll be back on the commission as well. Let's see, other items from a city standpoint, couple announcements. One is the Columbus Civilian Review Board, who you may have heard about, that we all voted on a year ago or so, is being set up and taking applications right now. So if you do have any interests along those lines, I'm going to link everyone to that application in the chat. That is available until the 15th. So you've got, a little over a week here if you would like to, and that went out earlier, but at least from right now, it's a little over a week left. And Erin can talk a whole lot more about that since she was on the committee that helped give some of the guidelines or recommendations around it. The other one is there's an application open for Columbus City Council District Representation Commission, which has the super fun job of drawing the new lines and boundaries for the new city council district seats. So if some of you may not be aware, but we as a city voted a couple of years ago to change up how the city council would be distributed and require that, basically each city council member live within a district in order to make sure that, they're distributed throughout the city. Because, right now we don't have a city council member who lives on the south side. So it'd be nice to have that. So that was the goal of that. They are still elected citywide, but they can only run for the seat if they live in the district. So this commission is just a one-time thing to get it up and running and basically draw those boundaries so that all the districts are within 1% of population and conform to various other mapping requirements. So if you want that job, which is unpaid, by the way, you can certainly apply using that second link. The other one, which is a little bit lower left here that I'll link in here, which is coming from our Safety, Health, Welfare, and Equity Committee on the Commission, is a Reimagining Public Safety Survey Monkey. And it's basically a survey to ask about, when is it appropriate for some of the new units that are being set up, what types of calls you'd like to see them take. For those of you who may not have followed it as closely, the city is setting up some units that are a police officer paired with a specialist, and that could be a social worker or a drug counselor or someone who's got a specialty education in dealing with certain issues. And then those pairs would be sent out to different types of calls. So if they get a call that comes in of a certain type, a mental health issue, instead of sending 2 officers, they would send an officer and a intervention counseling person who's specialized training in de-escalation and in handling mental health issues. So that's the thought around that. And they've got a variety of call types that, they kind of want to just get feedback from the public as to what call types we'd like to see and what sort of situations would you rather have 2 officers or potentially not have officers at all, or an officer and a specialist paired. So they're just trying to get feedback. This also plays directly into the city budget, which is coming up next month. So if you do have opinions around this issue, I do encourage you to take that survey and give your feedback, because that's going to play into a lot of those discussions. I think that's enough for me for right now. Erin, you can certainly tag on if you'd like.
I guess the one thing I'll say about the Civilian Review Board applications is the first thing that they're going to tackle is setting up bylaws and processes. So if you're interested, you should be ready for that kind of work. And I'll just share that the Public Services and Planning Committee that's meeting this month has invited the Department of Development to talk about city planning policies and the C2P2 Columbus Citywide Planning Policy Update that the Southside Area Commission approved a couple of years ago. So if you're interested in that, all of our login information will be posted on our Facebook and such.
Thanks to you both. Okay, guys, so since we're really long in the tooth in the meeting, we're going to go ahead and table most of the items that are left, which are just MVA items primarily. Just quick note, we are still looking for a secretary. If you or someone is interested and you're a member, please nominate yourself through our website. We are very eager to fill that role. It's just till the end of this year, so it's a great way to dip your toe in the water. We will discuss these items on the agenda, like virtual and meeting in person, and what people are feeling about that at the next meeting. We'll also talk about chili cook-off at the next meeting. We will not be able to host a chili cook-off in person this year. We're looking for some great ways to do fundraising that will still support our scholarship fund. So please follow our social media for that information. Please go to our website, download the cookbook we uploaded, a lot of great submissions. And if you did have items you wanted to discuss during open floor, just go ahead and send those over to us via email, mvaboard@merionvillage.org. We'll find a way to get those shared with everyone to make sure that everybody's kept in the loop. Last but not least, I will mention this as well. Still need a volunteer for our 2020 audit committee. Your job is just to look look back at our books and our records from 2020, look over those, make sure everything is in order, and just report that to the membership. So would really love a volunteer that could help us with that, since a board member, of course, cannot complete it ourselves. Thank you again, everyone. This was such a long meeting after a very trying day. We really appreciate you and hope to see you all next month as well.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Have a great
Yeah,
night.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.